What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Altitude Show. I'm your host, Dave Brinker. It's good to be back. Good to see you guys. And it's been a fun couple months. It's time to get back in the groove and start throwing out some pods. So this will be the kickoff. This is Elevation Journal number 20, and it is titled Mountain Lessons. The Altitude Show is brought to you by Mountain Tough Fitness. Mountain Tough is the home to world-class home gym programs, mental training, self-improvement, prehab, rehab, stretching, mobility. It is the perfect place to get your life in order, and it all can live on your phone. You can do a lot of it, most of it, from your home. I started using Mountain Tough approaching on about a year ago, and I can now say after doing a 2-month elk season that it was game-changing. I can't remember that many times that I was just, like when you're on the mountain and you just feel like you're going to all the way to failure physically. I had a lot of tired days on the mountain, but I was in better shape this year than I ever have been. That's for sure. And Mountain Tough is mostly responsible for that. Go to the App Store, get the Mountain Tough app. That's MTN Tough. Use my code Dave20, 20% off on the Mountain Tough app. All right. So now that hunting season is coming to a close, at least for me, yeah, we're still doing some deer hunting and some stuff, but the main chunk of what I do, which is elk, is coming to a close. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to reflect on the season, because even though I've been doing this for 35 years, I always feel like there's so many things I can improve on. And this year was no exception to that. That's for sure. Gosh, I was sitting writing notes for this podcast this morning and thinking all the lessons I learned. And there's definitely not enough room in this podcast to talk about all of them. But I wanted to highlight at least a few. I'm going to turn 43 here in about a month. And I started going elk hunting when I was 2 with my dad. Obviously, I couldn't legally hunt in Oregon until I was 12, but I was walking along with my dad, guiding hunters when I was 6. So I've been doing this a long time. And I feel like over the last decade, especially the last 5 to 7 years, I've really, really kind of come into a space where I'm still improving, but I make a lot less mistakes. The last 5 years, I'd killed 7 bulls. Last year was a great year. I shot 3 arrows, 3 animals, including a bull that is a lifetime bull for me, a Roosevelt. And anyways, I came into this year really, really, really feeling great. Hadn't had a drink in a year, worked out consistently, shot my bow a lot, scouted more than ever, and my confidence was riding high. And I ended up getting 3 tags: an Oregon tag, an Idaho tag, and a Montana tag. And the plan was to start in Oregon with archery Roosevelts, which is where I live. It's my backyard. I really love hunting Roosevelts. They're challenging. They're beautiful. Really hard to find an old one. And then I would transition into an early rifle hunt in Idaho with my buddy Josh, and then end the year in Montana with, actually, originally I was going to do archery Montana, but it didn't end up happening. So it turned into a rifle tag, which in Montana, if you get an elk tag, you can use it in archery or rifle. Regardless, I wanted to share just really quickly, high level, what happened in each of those 3 states. And then I want to get into like the life lessons that I learned this year. So Oregon is always better in the early part, and then it gets worse as the season goes on for Roosevelt, in my opinion. The first week or 2 are always really good, and then it seems like it just gets harder and harder and harder as those bulls become more pressured and they become more comfortable with their cows. The first rutting action I saw this year was like August 15th. I saw one of my target bulls with the cows on August 15th in a wallow. And so it starts a lot earlier here. So I hunted the coast with my dad, my brother, and my buddy, actually Jeff Helm, ended up coming up for a week and hunting with me. And I went for broke. I was after just a few specific bulls. I wasn't going to shoot anything else. And so I passed up several young bulls, nothing crazy, young bulls that I could have most likely killed, and I ended up missing 2 of my target bulls. The first one I missed, I hit I was trying to shoot up through an opening through the timber. It was a longer shot in the 60s, and I caught the bottom end of a leaning log, so that sucked. It's on my Instagram if you want to see it. It's a great failure. The second one was a beautiful 7x6 world class Boone and Crockett Roosevelt at 35 yards after I'd sat on him for an evening and an entire morning. And I still don't know what happened. I shot through a hole, and the arrow, it was clean miss. I can't even tell you whether it went over or under him, because I just don't know. Because it was, like I said, I was shooting through about a huge basketball size hole at 35 yards. Went through the hole, but didn't get the elk. And then the last most bitter thing was on one of my other target bulls I got a shot at. Right towards the end of the season, I actually did shoot that bull, and I never recovered it. I looked for a total of 4 days, and still looking, actually. I plan on going back there again, but hope is low at this point. So, long story short, I ate my Oregon tag. After I hit that bull, I pretty much, theoretically punched it anyway, because I definitely killed that bull, unfortunately. And side note on that, I know that a lot of people don't like talking about things like that, and most people keep it a secret, and I do too. But I decided to talk about this one because I think sometimes it's okay to be honest. We're like a lot of hunters wound animals, and it's not a pretty part of our activity, but it does happen. And not talking about it makes a lot of people pretend like it doesn't happen. Talking about it helps other people cope with it and deal with it in the right way. So if you don't like it, then I'm sorry, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Then I went to Idaho, and I was on a rifle hunt, an early rifle hunt with my buddy Josh Boyd, and we backpacked in, and it was into some of the wildest and toughest country I've ever hunted in my life, and it was amazing. The first morning, we bugled in a bull from 700 yards. Josh shot it at 180 yards, and weather rolled in, and I spent the next week basically hunting solo most of the time, and I never saw another elk. So tag number 2, eaten. Then I went into Montana for the opening week of rifle season. And plan was to do the little solo backpack hunt, and it was awesome. Saw a lot of bulls, passed several bulls in pursuit of something mature. Didn't really care too much about what antlers it had on top of his head. I was just trying to find a mature bull. And even the first morning, I passed up a 6-point at 100 yards, but it was a young 6-point. I just didn't have it in me, even though at this point I was in a meat crisis, and kind of wanted to shoot it just to get some meat in the freezer, but I didn't. Then I get a word that there's a blizzard coming, and it really, really shortened my hopes of getting a bull. So it cut me down to about a day and a half where I had to be successful. Otherwise, I was coming home without a bull, because I wasn't going to sit there and endure that blizzard. It was going to be pretty bad. So long story short, I barely pulled it off on a bull, which I'm going to talk about in one of my later bullet points in this podcast. Anyways, so finally I filled one of 3 tags on a good bull, and it's a really cool story. But it was a adventurous season, but a lot of lessons and a lot of failure and a lot of no sleep and exhaustion and burning quads and missing my family and rain and wind and snow, and it was just a really challenging season. But I'm lucky to be able to hunt as much as I do. All right, so what did I learn out of those 3 tags? And when I learn something in the mountains, I try to apply it to life, and I hope maybe you guys can find value in it too. All right, so And with each of these lessons, I'll tie it to something tangible that I'm going to change about my game that hopefully can make me better. So the first one I want to talk about was failure, because I always talk about how hunting is 99% failure. Still true. I can attest to that. And there's a quote I saw this morning that says, "The greatest teacher failure is," and that's from Yoda. I agree with that. So we all follow a bunch of quote unquote successful people on Instagram and YouTube, and we search these articles and videos on how we can be more successful, on and on and on. Nonstop, we get fed how to make $1 million, how to, shoot 1,000 yards, how to hit a balloon at 100 yards, how to be more successful. And that's all fine and great. But what most people never talk about in those videos is how many failures that came with how they figured out how to be successful in whatever, skill they're trying to teach you. And some people do, the humble ones do, but a lot of people don't. And, after, again, 35 years of doing this, it seems like the number of failures goes down, but it certainly never goes away. And there's a reason for that. And when you're on the mountain and even the years you're swimming in success, and then all of a sudden it comes to a screeching halt, you're on the mountain, you're going, why am I not successful? Why am everybody I'm scrolling through Instagram and looking at all these dead bull, makes you feel like shit. And it makes you feel like you're not good enough. And you say, why me? Why can't I be successful? I thought I was really good at this. Well, the answer is there's more to learn. The universe or God, whatever you believe in, is sending you a message and telling you that you're not done learning and you never will be. And no matter what the Instagram presence of all these people says, they never will be either. It's just this constant quest of trying to find perfection that doesn't exist. And so for me, after reflecting on all my failures in archery season specifically, I realized that I had a flaw in my bow setup. The bulls that I missed in Oregon, all of them, including the one actually that I hit and lost, I was shooting through holes. In the brushy country, you got to shoot through a lot of holes. Like, there's not a great way around it. And one of the things, I think one of the best, I don't know, setups that you can have is a bow that shoots flat. Now, I've been shooting a reasonably light bow with a heavier arrow, because you're also shooting a lot of close shots at these big, heavy boned elk, and you want to make sure that you have the maximum amount of force when you're hitting them. But the thing I realized this year is I need to change my bow setup into something that shoots more flat, even if I lose a little bit of weight in terms of arrow weight. I think it's worth it, because these holes I'm shooting through, if you nick a limb, obviously it's no good, right? And sometimes the hole won't be for 40 yards. So minimizing your arc and can really help in this country. So I am completely starting over with my bow setup, and this will be fun too. I'm going to share my quest. I'm going to go down to a bow company in the next month that I've already agreed to talk to, and we're gonna blow up my whole bow setup and arrow setup and start over fresh, because my 2 misses and my hit, I think, could have been prevented. At least the odds would have went up if I had a flatter shooting setup. So shame on me, but also good opportunity to get better and learn. So that's what I'm going to do. So I failed. I learned something. I'm putting it to work. So next year, I'm completely ready for that same scenario to happen, because it's bound to happen again. And I hope that second bull that I missed specifically, at 35 yards, I hope he's still around, because if I can get another shot at him, I will not screw it up again. All right. So lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 was around self-belief or self-doubt. when you're on the mountain for a long periods of time and you're sleep deprived and you're tired and you're constantly failing, it is very difficult to not start doubting your skills or doubting yourself, doubting your whole life, everything, right? Why do I do this? Why am I even here? I should be at home. I'd love to just go sleep in my bed and get a cup of coffee or drink a beer and eat a bunch of food, right? I'm not good at this. Maybe I was just getting lucky all these years. Maybe I'm just an imposter. I'm not like those people I'm seeing on Instagram. Everyone else is better than me. And you start getting into this mindset, right? Especially after you've been doing this for 2 months. Like, it really grinds on you, right? And what happened was, when I was in Montana, I found this big bull I wanted to try to pursue. And I actually called a buddy to come in and help me, because I knew if I got a shot at this bull, it was going to be a longer shot and it was going to be a little tougher to get him out. So he came in there, we relocated, we went over there, we find this bull right before dark. He's at 530 yards. I'm shooting a 300 Weatherby mag with a Leupold VX5 HD scope on it with a CDS dial. Like, I can make that shot. It's not a terribly long shot for the setup. I had a pretty good rest. And so anyways, we get set up, and I proceed to miss that bull 4 times. I clean misses. My buddy was spotting for me. We watched the bull trot and go into the woods, and it is just icing on the cake from the year. And I am just immediately catapulted in the catastrophe of all things negative in my head and not believing in myself. Look, see, I'm just an imposter. I'm not any good at this. This is, all the things. And I went back down to camp and I texted my dad, who is my #1 mentor, and I told him what happened. And he said something to me that I'll never forget. He goes, "Why don't you just go over to the opening where he is and shoot him closer?" Because in those mountains, a lot of the openings, like on those big timbered ridges, these bulls are using these little openings to eat in, and then they go into the timber and bed. And you can't see those openings unless you're standing in them or you're across the canyon from them. And usually it's between 400, 600 yards, just the way the geography works. So you either got to be able to shoot them at 500 yards or 40 yards. And with the current rifles, it's, I'm sure a lot of you are very well equipped to do that. I'm a bow hunter that also shoots. I've been shooting guns my whole life, but I don't consider myself a sniper by any means. I would say I'm probably pretty average rifle shot. So, my dad says, "Why don't you just get closer?" And I said, "There's no way I'm going over those openings and getting on those bulls, even though they're coming out in the openings every day. And if it was bow season, that's exactly what I would do, obviously." So I laid in bed and I'm like, I got the storm rolling in. It's supposed to be rainy and foggy the next morning. And I'm like, you know what? I texted my dad and my buddies. I'm said, I'm going to go bow hunt that bull. I'm going to hike in there in the dark, and I'm going to get over there in that opening, and I'm just going to try to kill him close. And even though I was saying that, I knew I could do it, but in the moment I was still really doubting myself and just knowing that I'm probably going to eat this tag too and go 0 for 3 this year. And the next morning I hiked in there in the dark and I made this plan and mapped it out, and I executed my plan flawlessly and ended up shooting that bull at 40 yards in his bed, looking the other way. Point being is, I know I'm a bow hunter. I know I'm a good bow hunter. I've been doing it my whole life. I know I'm a pretty average rifle shot. Why didn't I believe that I could do that in the first place? Why didn't I just go over there in the first place and try to get closer? Well, the reason is usually whatever weapon you have in your hands, you're going to try to get right to the edge of your competency, and then you're going to stop. Like traditional bow hunters, when they get to 30 yards, they'll that's like kind of the edge of most guys' effective range. They'll usually stop or just try to get a little bit closer than shoot. Compound guys, it's like right around 60 or 70. Rifle guys, it's right around 300 or 400 yards. In this case, I knew I could get a lot closer. Shit, in archery season, I can run to 500 yards of most of those bulls. Like it's not even, I would never even think about that. It's like easy. Even 300 yards, 200 yards, 150 yards in archery seasons, fairly easy, right? So like my mindset had switched, and like I tricked myself into thinking that I wasn't good enough to do that. And so, long story short, I need to work on believing in myself more and knowing my skills, and then formatting my skills for whatever hunt I'm on. And thinking back through my rifle hunting days, most of my rifle elk have been like I've basically archery hunted to kill them. Like I just, that's the way I'm good at hunting. So why not use that skill to my benefit? So no matter what Instagram's telling you about everybody, making yourself feel like shit about yourself, you're not an imposter. You're not just lucky. You need to believe in yourself, but utilize your strengths to be successful. So what am I going to do this year with the second lesson? I'm going to actually do a shooting school where I learn how to shoot longer range. I want to know how, and I want to be better. I want to become better, because maybe I shouldn't have missed him at 500 yards. But if I would have hit him at 500 yards, I would have never reinstilled the belief in myself that I could just go over there and get him closer. So, but I am going to learn. So it's get closer and learn how to shoot further. I think those are the two ways I can improve. All right. So lesson number 3, and this is around perseverance. I kept getting texts throughout the season from my buddies who were following along saying, dude, I can't believe you're still out there grinding. Like, good on you. Way to persevere and all that. And I get those texts and I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to be out here grinding. I'd rather be successful earlier so I can get the hell out of here and, you know, go home and see my family. It's really easy to go out, hit it hard on opening day. But a friend of mine, Tom Foss, told me a long time ago that you have to hunt as hard on the last day as you do on the first day. Now, that's incredibly hard to do. Actually, if you think about, like, next time you're out there on a 10-day hunt, try to hunt as hard the last day as you did the first day. My guess is most of you won't, as most of the time I don't either. It's really, 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 really hard. But after, 200 miles or more and being exhausted and missing my family and the comforts of home, my bed, my wife, my kids' smile, sleep, food, as I was like creeping through the rain and the snow and the wind in Idaho and Montana, the only thing that I kept thinking about was I was always on the verge of quitting, but the only thing I kept thinking about was just one step, slow, every day, just keep going, and you will be successful. You're right on the edge. You got to keep going. And even though I had those moments where I was like totally in the dumps, a lot of those moments actually, I think what got me through this season and to pull off what I did in Montana was just this idea of putting one foot in front of each other and just keep hiking, keep moving up the mountain, keep not hitting snooze. And people came and went out of my season. They went back to the comforts of life, civilization. And the hunters that I admire the most never stop. Trail Kreitzer says that. A lot of people that I admire, they never stop. They take the time they have and they use all of it, and they never stop. And there were a lot of moments that I wanted to quit this year, and I never did. And I think, man, effort is such an amazing thing that usually pays off. And so I need to remember that, and going into future seasons, and just life is, no matter like how much rain's hitting you in the face and how steep the mountain is or how many tags you haven't filled, just putting one foot in front of each other is pretty deadly if you keep going. So that's lesson number 3. Lesson number 4 is, and this is I think the most interesting one, because it's so good. Being alone on the mountain is the best drug. And this can apply to anybody out there that that has access to the outdoors, which is everybody. You can go to a park or a hiking trail, but if you can get in the wilderness by yourself, especially staying overnight, I can't emphasize enough how much of a psychedelic experience it is. And I always forget, but I spend a lot of time hunting alone, and it requires you. There's no escape from yourself, especially when there's no cell service, especially when you're in the dark alone and you're sleep deprived and you're hungry and you miss your family. Your biggest fears, regrets, problems, you're lonely. You're forced to reflect on everything. And when you're laying in your sleeping bag at night, the question is what crosses your mind? What would you change? What are you wasting time on? What do you regret? What are those problems that like you want to go home and solve? It forces you to think about those things. There's no way around it. You are forced to be food, shelter, water, and whatever's in between your ears. And I think it's like I got a lot of time alone on the mountain this year, and really brought that back to light. Every year I remember that, but if you can get that opportunity to get up there and then document what you come away with. And I'm not saying it's pretty, guys. Like, it's scary laying on the mountain by yourself alone at night. It's not just scary because of mountain lions and the normal things people are scared of. I'm actually not scared of most of those things. What I'm most scared of is what's between my ears. And as you guys know, I have anxiety. And so a lot of times what comes between my ears is like a haunted house. And I think a lot of people are like that. And if you're alone in the dark laying there, it'll bring all those things out. And you have two choices. You can run off the mountain and go find comfort of, a house. Or you can lay there and think and try to sort out what this is telling you. I've never done psychedelic drugs like DMT or mushrooms or anything like that, ayahuasca. But from what I hear, that's kind of what they do. Is you're forced to kind of face what's in your head, and that's also the therapeutic benefit of them. So I look at my time on the mountain alone as another version of that. Like, when you're staring at a mountain glassing for 8 hours by yourself with no cell service, what are you thinking about? What keeps popping up that you could address? And for me, I came off the mountain with a few things. One is I think I can be a better dad. My kids are starting to get into sports and have social lives, and they're getting older to where it really requires me to be there more for them and support them and make them know that I'm behind them no matter what. So I realized that I've fallen short on some of that stuff as I've been building businesses and my own career, and spent a lot of years with a lot of selfish things, and selfish things aren't always bad, but I need to be there more for my family, my wife, my kids, be more present when I'm with them, support them. And I realized that on the mountain, I have some regrets. And so I'm trying to figure out how can I serve them better and be less selfish. So that's my example of things that I dealt with on the mountain that I came back and I'm going to apply to my life. So use the mountain to reflect. Don't be scared of it. Let those demons come out, face them, document them, take them off the mountain, and figure out how you're going to deal with them. So the 4 things that I talk about are failure, learn from your failures, take something from it, change something tangible, self-doubt. If you know that you can do something, never forget that and believe, even in those worst moments where everything is falling apart, it's going to work out. Believe in yourself. Perseverance, hard work always wins. Always. Over a long period of time, hard work always wins. Effort always wins. Never stop. Number 4, use the mountain as a tool to make your life better. Use it as a reflection tool. And if you can spend time in the dark alone on the mountain, do it. The best drug you'll ever take. All right, guys. We are to the end of this segment. I have so many awesome guests that are going to be coming on the show over the next several months. And I appreciate you guys taking that little break with me. I hope you guys all went out and had fun in whatever you do, whether you're a hunter or not. And if you're not a hunter, I hope you have a time of year where you can kind of disconnect and go just be part of nature. So, or whatever you're passionate about. So the Altitude Show is brought to you by GoHunt. GoHunt is the tool that I use for everything hunting, including my maps, my tools that I use to scout, research, plan, and then also my number one gear shop. I think it's one of the best online dealers there is. So go to gohunt.com. When you sign up to become an insider, use my code Altitude. You'll get a discount. When you sign out of their gear shop, use my code Altitude. You'll get a discount. Please go do that. It helps support the show. They're awesome folks. Go support them. Last but not least, go support outdoorclass.com. Outdoor Class, especially in the wintertime when you guys have all these hours of darkness, get on there, find a class, whether that be Remy Warren's class on mule deer hunting or Randy Newberg's class on, public land hunting, elk hunting, whatever it is, cooking, Hank Shaw. You get on there, use this winter as a time to improve, and Outdoor Class is a perfect place to do that. Use my code Altitude for 20% off your subscription. Hope you guys all have an amazing day, and I can't wait to put out a bunch of shows this winter, and I hope you learned something because I learned a lot. Thank you, guys.